I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending January the 13th, where suddenly these packers are struggling. And I know sometimes we're hard on the packers and almost seems like they're the enemy because we're having such a hard time dealing with them, but you think it's hard to deal with them whenever they're making money. Try dealing with them whenever they're struggling. And now that the cutout values have really dipped down there a bunch here, kind of unexpectedly, and we've seen this sudden rise in the fat cattle market on a cash basis, it's going to be nip and tuck for them. But you look at the board for last week, live cattle futures on the February contract. Monday was up $1.70. Tuesday was up the $3 limit. We remember that, how good it was early last week. Wednesday come down 40 cents. Thursday down $1.65. And then Friday back up $1.05 to end the week at 118.47. That was up 365 for the week. Feeder cattle futures on the March contract, Monday was up $1.70. Tuesday up the $4.50 limit. Wednesday down 37. Thursday down $1.87. And Friday up 155 to end the week at 129.30, which was up $5.50 for the week. Big gains there. Had an interesting fat cattle market trade last week, and probably the first big success of the Fed Cattle Exchange. Always have that late Wednesday morning there, and they sold cattle from 118 to 120, mostly 119, but did have several pins sell at 120, and that was the absolute high for the week. And what it did, even though it wasn't a big trade, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 there total sales, it really kept the market that high for what volume we did have later in the week. And if we hadn't had that little bit of trade, it spurred some trade Wednesday early afternoon there in the Nebraska feedlot areas. If we hadn't had that little bit of trade, we could have lost a lot more ground than we did on your regular direct negotiated sales out in the country there. But on Friday, late Friday, and we said that they were going to have to haggle quite a bit, and they really did because of the way the market was, because of the way the box beef cutout value was and everything. It was really a struggle to get that fat cattle trade done. Nobody really has a good idea of what the volume was. It's not going to be very heavy, like we have been seeing the whole last part of last year, near 100,000 head. It's probably going to be more in that 50 to 70,000 head range on a negotiated basis there. But we did have some trade Friday late, at mostly all 119 on a live basis, and 189 to mostly 190 dressed. That would be mostly $2 higher on a dress basis and $1 to $2 higher on a live basis. A few 120s on a direct basis out in the country, but really probably not any more than they had on the Fed Cattle Exchange online auction there on Wednesday. But we talked about the box beef cutout values down hard on the average trade for the week. Now, not just the end of the week, but the average trade for the whole week was $9.84 lower on the choice carcasses, ending up at 192 even. And that choice select spread's really narrow right now. Select carcass values were at 188.59, which was down just over $5 for the week on the average trade. But and it ended up a little bit lower than that at the tail end of the week. But we're expecting that to pick up some here in the next couple of weeks, and we should start to see that this week in this week's trade. Last week's cattle slaughter under federal inspection there was up good in the first big full week we had after all the holidays at 609,000, and you look at the same week a year ago, it was 34,000 more than what they had last year. In the feeder cattle markets, had the bell ringer satellite video there Superior did during the Denver Stock Show. 83,000 head, not a big run really for what they can have sometimes, but looked to have pretty good trade, and saw the similar gains that we've seen in our regular weekly auctions across the country. Had heavy volume in our local and regional feeder cattle auctions this past week. One of the biggest weeks we've had in several years, and just big volume. Had a lot of stock show specials in and around the area, around the National Western there, and big volumes there. A lot of people didn't end up selling their cattle on a video or in private treaty direct sales because they just didn't like the market. All fall they didn't like it, and finally got into the new year and they really need to be doing something because they're going to be calving here pretty soon, and they needed to move some cattle. Even though a lot of them had plenty of hay and had some stockpile grass, they were afforded the ability to hold on to their cattle longer than they normally would without having to supplementally feed them too much and get them too fleshy. But big sales all across the country, in the plains and the Midwest especially, and your feeder cattle going right into the feed yard now, mostly weighing over 750, and a lot of them are not yearlings. Most of them are big calves or short yearlings there that have a youthful look to them, but those are straight up $2 to $5 lower. You might see a different trend somewhere else, but they're absolutely $2 to $5 lower. If you look at load lot drafts all through the state of Kansas, middle of the week, that's exactly what they were. You look at the load lot drafts here on Friday out of Lexington, Nebraska, those load lot drafts are $2 to $5 lower than the same similar type drafts that they had the week before. So that's what it is. You look at your middleweight feeders, calves, weighing under 750. Now we saw some gains there, as we have been seeing throughout the new year so far. They were firm to $4 higher. Not a lot of lightweight calves around, but good demand for those too, as guys are wanting to buy some lighter cattle to put cheap pounds on them, because these bigger, heavier cattle, it's hard to try to make those hedge, and so they're really having to back off of those here of late. But these guys that feed cattle, these feedlots and independent feeders, are starting to make some a little bit of money now. We've been talking for a long time, and all through these wrecks, how much money they're losing. We ought to say they're starting to sell some cattle or put some cattle on the show list that were really bought worth the money and fed pretty cheap too. So you know, it's hard to say exactly where they're at because the market was so volatile whenever they were buying those feeders, but making some pretty good money on some of these cattle coming out of the feedlot right now. You look at a sale on Friday there, Tama, Iowa. That's normally known for a fat cattle auction, but they do sell feeders too. Look, a load there on Friday at 2:30 in the afternoon, weighing 823 pounds, bring 137. Pretty good market there, and that's not really in the main streamline of the 5-area feeding region, but up there in the farmer feeder region there. But check out dvauction.com. We've got a lot of production sales coming up with some good breeding stock later on this spring and coming up. If you've got a production sale that you're going to be having, don't forget to call your representative at DV Auction, get it consigned. We've got a lot of sales coming up. If you're going to have a sale that's totally a video sale, we're getting those videos done right now, and we're going to be getting our calendar clogged up pretty much on getting videos or sales scheduled, so don't miss out and get yours in. That's your market summary for this week from a home DV Auction office here in Canyon, Texas. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.